Good morning, members of the press, and welcome to this very, very short press briefing. Can we switch off our phones or take them out of this phone, please? Our phones off. Good morning, members of the press, and welcome to this very short press briefing. I thought it was extremely important that I speak to the country about what is obtaining in our country today. I am giving this press statement without malice or without impunity, but simply to give guidance, which guidance is extremely important in order for this country to come out from the economic situation that we are faced with, from the so many sufferings of our people that we are facing today. People of Zambia, this country is not poor. This country can provide for all its 17 million people using the natural resources that we have. But what is lacking in this country is to set our priorities right. What is lacking in this country is to set our priorities right. I think we've concentrated too much on politicking as opposed to finding solutions that will save our country from economical degradation. Where we have reached, if we are not careful, we will fall into a point of no return. And that will be very, very difficult. We may find ourselves into a situation that Zimbabwe has. We may find ourselves into a situation where George Weah, where is George Weah as president? Liberia is. Where you have your own money, but the bank cannot access you, cannot allow you to access your money because there is no money. We may end up like Greece, where you have your own bank gives you a timetable when you can access your money. This is where we are driving to if we are not careful. And to come out of this problem, we need a concerted effort. We need a concerted effort and a very serious reflection on our kind of politics that we are perpetuating in this country. My heart bleeds to find that at a time that people are suffering, our economy is going down, people are continuing to refuse that we are not in a crisis. But if we are not in a crisis, why is it that we fail to honor the $1.4 million payment to the African Development Bank? If we are not in a crisis, why is it that when government recovers loans from its employee, which is supposed to be payable to the loan providers or the financial institutions, that government is failing to remit that money to those institutions? And yet we are saying we are not in a crisis. We are saying we are not in a crisis when people of Zambia are having 5 hours of electricity in a day. But we are refusing and keep on saying that we are not in a crisis. I feel very bad about this kind of situation. And unless we take drastic measures, this country will be Zimbabwe, this country will be Liberia, this country will be Greece very soon. Why is it like this? What has caused this problem? What has caused this problem is because those in leadership today, those in government today, are not concentrating on finding solutions to the so many problems that we are faced with as a country. The only thing that they are interested in right now is to find ways of how they can continue in government by winning the 2021 general elections and beyond. This is dangerous. Because when you start to concentrate on only perpetuating your stay in power, on only winning elections, the offshoots of that concentration is dangerous. Because look, we are in this situation today because we have overborrowed. When you ask the question, why have we overborrowed? It's only one reason: political appeasement. Without any plan at all is fatal. Political appeasement without any plan at all is fatal. What do I mean? You are all Zambians here and you see, when there is a by-election, you find the president goes there, the Minister of Health, they promise we are going to build a clinic here. That clinic which they are promising to build there because of a by-election, is it budgeted for? No, it's not. How do they actualize that clinic which was not in the budget? They are going to borrow. Borrowing which was not in their plan, in order for them to impress or to appease the community where there is a by-election. Today we are seeing the Minister of Health, everywhere there is a by-election, he has to go and pronounce a building of a health center or a clinic and groundbreaking. Those clinics and health centers are not budgeted for. Because they are not budgeted for, but they want to appease the community so that they can win elections, they'll end up going to borrow. Now that borrowing has reached a point of no return, where now we are even failing to service the existing loans. But we continue to borrow. I want to appeal to His Excellency the President, honestly, that please, can you switch gears? Move the gear from wanting to win the 2021 elections to solving the current problems that we have as a country. Because that's why leaders are elected. The PF government of President Edgar Lungu, for him to be in office to plan so many problems that we are faced with as a country. But what is happening now is that the president and his government are more preoccupied with the issue of how they are going to win elections. Let me just give you an example. 2 years or a year before the elections, a party in government goes to establish mobilization teams. A party in government goes to mobilize to organize mobilization teams. Do we need political mobilization or we need economical emancipation? What we need is to find problems to the economical challenges that we are facing as a country, not to mobilize political parties. Today, when you read the paper now, it is just Lusaka province mobilization team unveiled. When you read about these ministers, no, the gifts that we are giving to this country, we are just starting, it's just a tip of an iceberg. Next year you see us giving more. Giving more when we have got so many problems. There is no handouts that have changed, that have changed the poverty situation of the country. You can only fight poverty by coming up with policies and programs that will empower the people. Like the English say, teach a child how to fish and don't give the child fish. Because when you teach a child how to fish, he will eat fish every day. What the Zambian people need is not the handouts of mini meal from Bowman Lusambo and other ministers. What the people of Zambia want is to have jobs where they can earn a salary. When they earn a salary, they go and buy mini meal for themselves. because that is sustainable and for them to live. My colleagues, my friends, President Edgar Lungu and those in government, I beg with you in a very humble voice that please stop this thinking of wanting to win elections at all costs. Concentrate on coming up with programs and policies that are going to get us out of this situation before we become another Zimbabwe, before we become another Greece, before we become another George Weah's Liberia. This situation is serious. Because we want to appease. Look, our president now is making mistakes that are now becoming, we are becoming a laughing stock in the region. And I wonder where these ministers are helping the president to govern this country, or they are also busy just wanting to come up with programs of how to win elections. 2 days ago, the president made a directive that is going to reduce his salary by 20% and directs that all those in the senior category of the civil service, except unionized, should also reduce their salaries by 15%, 10%, etc., etc., without recourse to the law. And it goes to say that this reduction will help to cushion the fuel prices and the electricity prices. Where is the correlation? Where is the correlation? When the president reduces his salary by 20%, how will it affect him? Look, the president is fed by the state. Clothes are bought for him by the state. He's got free fuel, free housing. He doesn't even know where his salary goes. You remember during the Frederick Chiluba time, there was a time that Frederick Chiluba went to check his account after about 3 years and found that somebody had been withdrawing money from his account where the salary was going. Because he doesn't need the salary. So you want to say, I'm going to reduce the salary, everybody reduces. President is not going to suffer. The ministers are not going to suffer as a result of that decision. The people are going to suffer, the other civil servants. You cannot reduce conditions of service without the consent of the concerned employee. It is the law, and I can quote the law. Now, the president is making those mistakes because the preoccupation of those in government today is to make rhetoric statements that are going to appease the people. And this is what I'm saying. When you concentrate on political appeasement, you make so many mistakes on the way. In terms of Section 55, 1C of the Employment Code of Act number 3 of 2019, an employer is considered to have terminated the contract of employment of an employee by reason of redundance if the termination is wholly or part due to an adverse alteration of the employee's condition of service without the employee's consent. That's the law. It simply means the president has got no power just to wake out and say, I have directed that the salaries of the civil servants must be reduced by 15%, by 10% like he did. Now the question is, where is the Minister of Labor to advise the president? Where is the Minister of Justice to advise the president? Do we have a Minister of Justice? Do we have a Minister of Labor? And look at Umusevanya. The following day, Kasolo goes and says, no, the presidency reducing his salary is not compulsory. It is optional for those who want to do it. You are trying to make what I may call damage control when you've already committed a mistake. And this mistake being committed by the president is a very serious indictment on the entire government. It's a serious indictment on the office of those who are charged with the responsibility of advising the president. I am extremely disappointed with Mr. Chipambi that before you went to the press, you should have consulted on that statement. And Wakasolo insonye buntu. The best you could have done was just and say, we are sorry. I think the president was wrongly advised. And this cannot actually happen under the law. But you go to say, no, the Secretary of the Cabinet is coming up with a scheme, how this is going to work. The truth of the matter is that if you follow and implement according to what the president says, you would have been deemed as having terminated the contracts of all those civil servants that you want to have their salaries reduced. Ministers are paid electricity allowance, utility allowance. They are paid fuel allowance. And this utility and fuel allowance is based on the current prices on the market. Meaning, therefore, that even if they increase the salary for fuel, the minister will not feel it because his allowance for fuel will be increased in commensurate with the current prevailing fuel price on the market. Now you want the other civil servants to reduce their salaries when their fuel allowance, they don't have fuel allowance. Who are you trying to fool? You want other people to continue suffering while you people continue enjoying. I warned this government about the 32,000 kwacha that they have given themselves, illegal 32,000 kwacha that they have given themselves. The background to this is that under President Michael Sata, we said there was no need for a minister to have two vehicles. One vehicle stationed at the house for the wife and the official vehicle. So we removed the second vehicle to cut down on costs. When these current ministers and President Edgar Lungu came into power, they said, no, we have lost that vehicle which was being, which was for the house. We should replace it with an allowance of 32,000 kwacha per month, which they call vehicle replacement allowance. 32,000 per month multiplied by 10 months is 320,000 kwacha. 320,000 kwacha is the cost of a new Corolla. Meaning that for these ministers, every year, for the 5 years, they will be buying brand new Corollas. If it's duty-free, even a Hilux, you can buy at that amount. That is daylight robbery. Those are the issues that you need to completely remove from the payroll to cushion the people of Zambia and ring-fence finances towards the social sector. Your basic pay is nothing to talk about. Your money is hidden in the allowances. So even if you say ministers will reduce their basic pay by 15%, that will have no effect at all. Right now, they are earning about 90,000 kwacha. If you remove by 15,000, you are only moving by 15%. You're only removing about plus or minus 15,000. They will still remain with about 78,000. It will not affect them. But those other civil servants like deputy permanent secretaries, you want to reduce, they will suffer. These people have got loans. For heaven's sake, the law does not give the president the power to absolutely make that decision. And please don't do it. Zambians do not need a reduction in the salaries. They need an increase in the salaries. I know why they are doing this. It is because they want next year. I already told you, members of the press, that I've perused the yellow book and there is no provision for a salary increment. The figures for personal emoluments are the same as the figures last year. So all they want to do is to come and tell you that we cannot increase your salaries because us, we reduced our salaries and we led by example. But even if the president reduces his salary, it will not affect him. He doesn't even need to know how much he gets, even where it goes. Because everything, including beverages at State House, are paid for by the state. His children's holidays are paid for by the state. His wife's movement are paid for by the state. Ministers live by their allowances. That's why you see them all over. To go and inspect whether there is drugs in Siavonga, like we saw yesterday, Minister of Health, Chitaru Chilufe. You need a minister to go there. Because when a minister travels like that, he's entitled to 1,900 allowance. What we need is stop ministers from gallivanting the country aimlessly. Jobs that can be done by the DC, leave them to the DCs to check whether there is medicine in hospital and issue a statement. That's how you can cut down on costs. Cut down on unnecessary travels. Stop ministers flying first class or business class. Let them fly economy. Do we need the president every day to go and officially commission roads, clinics, hospitals, police stations? Because when the president travels, he travels with a contingent of security personnel who are all paid allowances. He travels with officials who are all paid allowances. Let the commissioning, when you traverse this country, countrymen and women, we have seen this building was officially opened by Minister of Health. This was opened by Minister Chakuti. This was opened by District Governor. Today, everything has to be opened by the President. It is because we are practicing what I'm calling political appeasement, and we are in the campaign gear all the time. And that is why we have neglected to resolve the issues this country is facing. Because the preoccupation of these in government, particularly this government, is only to make sure that they do things that the people are going to see in order for them to say. They are even saying this year will be Sontapo Abomba. That Sontapo Abomba is misplaced, because that money which is used to build those things is taxpayers' money. We pay tax. It's the people who are building those things. It's not any particular individual. Please, Mr. President, PF has been destroyed, and my heart bleeds to see that PF is where it is today. We suffered, some of us, to build PF. We spent our own personal money to build PF, which today is being abused by Lusambo, Dora Syria, and those who have came from an MMD. You have destroyed PF. Completely destroyed PF. And PF has now become a laughing stock. PF is losing popularity every day. How sure can you give your our New Year and Christmas present of hiked electricity tariffs, hiked fuel prices? What a way of celebrating Christmas. What a way of going into the new year. Yes, we do appreciate that ZESCO needs to come to reflective tariffs. But this can be done gradually. Last time you increased by 100%, the people accepted. And you said, when we do this increase, ZESCO will come to a normal operation. This 200% you told us, you see, the problem is we forget very easily. You said because of the importation of power from South Africa, we are going to pass the cost to the consumers. But tell us the truth. Are you really importing power from ESCOM? ESCOM is not giving you power. But you have gone ahead to increase the tariffs by 200%, while salaries of people have remained static. You are going to kill the people. You are going to milk the people to the bone, and there will be no cow to produce the milk. Abantu balechula. Look, you have not provided for any salary increment in the budget, but you have increased electricity. You've increased you've increased the price of fuel. Do you shudder to think, or do you sometimes, remain silent and meditate and think where the people are going to get the extra money to pay for the extra costs that you are now putting on the people? My suggestion over the electricity and fuel is as follows. Suspend duty on fuel. Temporarily suspend duty on fuel. Remove fuel levy. Fuel levy was introduced for the purpose of maintaining the roads. Now that you've got the toll gates, which is also a mistake, you have introduced the toll gates for the sole purpose of raising money to maintain the roads. Why should you keep fuel levy? If you remove fuel levy, you suspend import duty for a meantime, because the economy is not doing very well, the price of fuel will come down. Because what is going to happen is that next year, 2020, the price of mealie meal will be about 200,000 kwacha. Sugar, which is about 34 kwacha today, will be above 50 kwacha. Cooking oil, which we are buying at about 120, 110, will be about 170. 5 liters. Because electricity and fuel are the major components in the production cycle. And once these two are increased, and at the same time, automatically, you accept that all the commodities are going to go up. Transport will go up, because you need transport to transport the mealie meal when it is manufactured. You need transport to transport the sugar from where it is manufactured. You need transport to transport all the commodities to the markets. So once the price goes up, it means all these things will go up. Now, not only the fuel, you've also increased electricity, which is used by the farmers to produce, which is used by industry. Oluse kubalanda nabantu abalechula leadership. Take kuba fe preoccupied with winning the 2021 elections. This story of mobilization, stop it. After all, PF does not need to be mobilized. PF is already mobilized. You cannot mobilize people who have lost hope. You cannot, no matter how you go in the township, you mobilize, you give to Pakatat, until you just start doing the fundamentals that will uplift the living standards of the people between 2021. Otherwise, like Dicklon said, Namakanta, muyafake mu reverse, preparing to start shifting from those houses you occupy. So stop this politicking of mobilization, chakuti. We need solutions. Solutions like I've given you. Suspend import duty on fuel. Remove fuel levy on fuel. The price of fuel will come down. In terms of ZESCO electricity tariffs, the only thing you can do is it must be gradual. Increase by about 50% or 70% for this year. Give us another increase next year when conditions of service for people change. Because the cost of living must be commensurate with the conditions of service. But the conditions of service continue going down. And yet, the cost of living is going up. We will soon have a situation where there will be no money in the bank for people to grow like Zimbabwe. Because mwachilamu in Congole. And for you people of Zambia, hey, no, we cannot develop without borrowing. Some of the things that they are doing are necessary. For instance, today they are putting security cameras in Lusaka. And I'm reliably informed that this is going to cost over $50 million. Is it necessary in a poor country like Zambia to go and start putting CCTV cameras in? Is Lusaka Zambia? What is the benefit of my mother who pays tax in, my grandmother who pays tax in Mporokoso? What is the benefit of that CCTV camera in Lusaka? What my mother needs is to go to the hospital and find drugs. What my mother needs is to go to the market, buy millimil at an affordable price. Not CCTV cameras. And you go and borrow for that program. That's why I'm saying what has hit us most as Zambia is that we are concentrating on winning elections and not providing solutions to the so many problems that we are facing. Foreigners who are working in the hospitals, that's doctors, most of them Congolese, and from Russia and them, after their 3 years, 2 years contracts, they are not being paid gratuity. When they ask for the gratuity, their contracts are not renewed, they are terminated. What kind of a country are we? What kind of a country are we? Even those on contract, nurses, retired nurses who have come on contract to help with the shortages, when they finish their 2 years, 1 year contract, they are not paid gratuity. When they ask about their gratuity, their contracts are not renewed, terminated. Are we going to be intimidating people all the time? President Edgar Lungu, I beg with you, put your house in order. This is an advice from a friend who wants to see Zambia. Don't leave a legacy that you are the one who destroyed PF that Mr. Sata and some of us started. Be focused. Save Zambia. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All right. We are done. I'm sure. Are there any questions? Very clear.